Top 5 Horrific Deaths During Football Matches. Football matches command the attention of millions of people around the world. It's a game of players, hazards, penalties, and goals. That's why people love football, and exactly these actions they expect to see on the pitch, but not the death of young football players. Now you will see 5 tragic deaths of football players in front of millions. Number 5. Sergei Perhun. In August 2001, during the match of CSKA Moscow against FC Angers, Sergei Perhun received a serious head trauma during the collision when he and the forward of the opposing team went up for the ball. At first, the injury appeared to be minor. Sergei was even conscious until the end of the game, but he became suddenly comatose on the way to the airport, causing clinical death. Despite all efforts, the football player died within 10 days from the trauma he had got on the pitch. A doctor's note: total brain edema. At the time of his death, he was only 23 years old. Number 4. Hrvoje Kustic. This Croatian football player tragically died as a result of severe head injuries received during a game because of hitting the wall with his head. In the 4th minute of the match, Kustic collided with a concrete wall separating the pitch from the stands, and he damaged his head in the worst way. Seconds before, Kustic tried to win a loose ball in a duel with an opposing player. But then both players collided and Kustic was carried into the wall. Unconscious, he was immediately transported to the local hospital. Following the surgery, he was in an induced coma. A few days later, the football player died, never having recovered after the tragic incident during the match. Number 3. Antonio Puerta. The life of this Spanish football player stopped unexpectedly. The season preceding his death was successful and intense for the player. Real Madrid wanted to snap him up, offering to buy him for huge money. But in August 2007, during the match against Real Madrid, Antonio experienced coronary symptoms. The player was able to walk to the dressing room where he collapsed once again. In 3 days, Puerta died. 2 months after Antonio's death, his girlfriend delivered their son, Aitora Antonio. Number 2. Miklos Feher. In 2001, he was recognized as the best Hungarian football player, ambitious, and one of the most talented players in the early 2000s. In 2004, Feher was in Guimarães with Benfica to play against a local team. In the last minutes of his life on the pitch, he received a yellow card for tackle the charge. Miklos Feher moved back towards the goal, pushed his hair back, smiled to the man in the middle, and bent forward, seemingly in pain. He then fell backwards to the ground. The first few minutes after this collapse, his heart was still beating, but when the players reached him, he was not breathing. Miklos Feher experienced the first clinical death directly on the pitch. Medical personnel tried repeatedly to reanimate the player, but half an hour after the first cardiac standstill, Feher's heart had stopped forever. He was only 24 years old. Number 1. Patrick Ecking. This Cameroonian football player died in May 2016 at the age of 26. During the match in the championship in Romania, the footballer came on as a substitute, and 6 minutes after his entrance, he collapsed. The player was transported to the hospital. 10 doctors were trying to save his life, but half an hour after this collapse, Patrick Ecking died in the hospital. Nothing sounded the death knell for the player. The footballers play for their club, their country, overcoming pain, injuries, and suffering great physical activities. They love the game, which gained the hearts of millions, and die on the pitch for it. Thanks for your attention. If this was pleasant to you, put likes and subscribe to the channel.